your service desk. And I am, as he said, Bill Berger, also known as the Burger Man. Let's get that screen to the next slide. There it is. So the first question might be, why should someone attend this webinar? Really, because they believe that it is possible for their service desk to be better than it is. If you believe that your service desk is everything that it could possibly be, if there's no vision for an improved quality of service, then you're one mouse click away from something much more interesting on the internet. Who should be attending this webinar? Anyone that believes that they can impact their service desk towards becoming better than it is. The question could be, is this webinar just for service desk professionals? Is this for the management of the service desk? Is this for the owners of a company that has a service desk, the consumers of the services provided by the service desk? The possible answer is yes for any of this. If you believe that you can impact the quality of service that your service desk provides, then this seminar is for you, or this webinar is for you. Again, last chance. If you don't feel that you fall into that category, then again, avail yourself of another mouse click and do something far more interesting. Today's agenda, we're going to have a quick introduction about New Horizons Computer Learning Centers. This is really not a sales event, but I'd love you to know a little bit about the company I'm so proud of, and a little introduction about myself. And then we're going to talk about those top ways, number 1 through 5, for improving your service desk. And we'll end with a Q&A section. So who is New Horizons? We're a proven worldwide training partner with blah, 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 flexible learning solutions covering all this other stuff. We are a big company. We are pretty much everywhere in the world. We deliver training in a bunch of different languages, and we have done so for a very long time. We're the largest international network with a whole bunch of classrooms and a whole bunch of instructors and millions of students that are made more effective every day through our training engagements. So who is the Burger Man? I am William Berger, also known as the Burger Man. If you find me on the internet or in print or in the books, I'll be listed as the Burger Man. I've been a technical instructor with New Horizons since 1996, and I'm currently functioning as the technical training manager. In my IT background, I have been an independent consultant, IT director, small business owner, a Microsoft regional exchange expert. Microsoft recognized me as the top instructor in the United States, and for about 5 years, one of the top 3 instructors in the world for their exchange platform. So they subcontracted me away from Microsoft, away from New Horizons, to wear their logo and speak at TechEd and all kinds of other events. My background includes a bunch of certifications in Microsoft technologies. I have 24 separate certifications in Microsoft, as well as a bunch of experience in what is called ITIL, I-T-I-L. And much of what I'm going to talk about today comes from that ITIL background. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, and I'm a big believer in process. That's a little bit about me. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a delay before we get into our 5 main points. Top 5 ways to improve your service desk. Way number 1. The number 1 way to improve your service desk is, if I had a drum roll, I'd bring it out here, actually have a service desk. And what I'm trying to point out here is that a service desk is not the same thing as technical support. Now, we've had tech support since we had that one person that knew how to use the word column feature, make it work. And everybody in the department would go and talk to, let's say, Bob or Mary, who had this affinity for computers, and they could get a particular technology to do what it needed to be done. That evolved into what we like to think of as a break-fix department, a technical support department. But that's not service desk. The concept of service desk is derived from the idea that IT is a service, and we need to focus on the benefit that these services provide to our consumers, whether those consumers are internal or external or both. We are providing the ability to communicate. We're not providing Exchange or Outlook. We're providing the ability to gain access to information that is necessary to do their job. It is not maintaining the SQL or Oracle database. So in the service desk view, we are largely a crisis hotline. If that individual sitting in the production environment, that user, consumer of the IT services, is calling us, it might be because they believe that they've lost the first quarter earnings report and they've got a meeting with the ownership in about a half hour, and they're in an absolute panic, and they really need someone who is capable of meeting their immediate need in a way that keeps them off of the ledge. They're not jumping to their demise. The help desk or technical support is, I'm having difficulty changing the toner cartridge on this high-end multifunction mop-ear device, and it doesn't look like the access panel can be opened with the turn of a switch. How do I gain access to this? This requires a degree of technical expertise on that particular printing device. I'm not saying we don't need technical support. I am saying that technical support is often a very bad substitute for a service desk. When the person has technical skills, they may not have the best interpersonal communication skills. I'm not saying that all technical experts are poor communicators, but I have met more than a few of them in my experience. I've seen plenty of people who can write amazing code or can troubleshoot amazing technical complex items and not be able to show empathy or compassion. They're more likely to be that character from the Saturday Night Live sketches probably 15 years ago, if you've been in the industry long enough. It was Nick Burns, company computer guy. And one of the telling things from Nick Burns' videos, if you remember them, is that in every sketch where somebody mentions Nick Burns, there's a guy in the back somewhere who says, I don't like that guy. Well, our IT department sometimes earns that, because when the customer says, I can't get this email to work or this stupid email system to work, Nick Burns' response is, oh, it's the email system that's stupid, not you, right? All that kind of snarky stuff. So what do we want to have in a service desk? We want to have consummate communicators, people who can listen, people who can understand and empathize. We want people who can communicate, whether verbally or in written word. They need to be able to produce documents. They need to be able to own a problem. We want our service desk to be a single point of contact for our IT organization. We want people to call our service desk when they have an issue, and that the service desk owns that issue, even if the individual they're speaking to doesn't have the technical chops necessary to resolve the root problem. The service desk's responsibility is the rapid restoration of services. If a person cannot print because a multifunction copier is not, it doesn't have the appropriate toner cartridge installed, we don't really need to get that copier functional again if our goal is just to produce a document. We can maybe get them connected to a different print device and get the document out in time. That's crisis management as opposed to break, fix, or repair and maintenance. It may sound obvious for me to be saying this to you if you're one of the people who've already made this step, but as an ITIL professional, I can attest that a great number of clients that I go visit have heard something about this service desk concept and have renamed their help desk service desk. And they staff their help desk with technically proficient individuals. But really, not so much. Honestly, when they staff their technical support or their help desk, they like to staff it with an entry-level person who proves their skills before they can get a real job. Right? That's rather pejorative. But I've seen this, and I've seen it in print, I've seen it in person, and you've probably seen this as well. Think about the problem this produces for your organization. The customer who needs their services restored is speaking to the newest, least qualified person in the company to address their problems often. And they may be least qualified because they don't have the communication skills necessary to understand what the problem really is. So step one, number one, have a service desk. Number two way to improve your service desk: honestly and accurately measure performance. IT as a service. We are providing a service to our organization and or our customers, depending upon whether our service desk is customer facing. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it, is the truth. I largely believe if you can't measure it, you can't succeed. So what do we choose to measure as the performance of our current service desk or help desk or technical support? Are we measuring the number of tickets that are done per day? If we get through 90 tickets per day, that might be excellent in some organizations. In other organizations, that might mean that we've had at least 90 interruptions in services that have needed to be fixed, and it might be evidence that our IT infrastructure is unstable. But if you measure and reward people based on metrics that are not aligned with the organization's ultimate goals, you should not be surprised if the human beings in these roles do what is best for themselves and not necessarily what is best for their organization. I have met many an IT professional who would be afraid of fixing a root cause because it would reduce the number of transactions they need to do. And if you got rid of the problem and reduced the incident tickets, then they would feel their job was in jeopardy. So they feel that broken systems are a form of job security. This is not just one company that has this problem. Many companies have this problem. You may have been the customer that received an inattentive and jump to conclusions answer from an IT professional on the other end of the phone. This could be because the person is being measured based on how rapidly the response is emailed. So I get the first 10 words out about my problem, and the person says, we've got a script that'll fix that, and shoots me an email with an attached script and closes the call and considers that successful service. As the consumer of that service, I don't consider that successful at all. I run the script and it's broken still, but I might not call back and say that it's still broken because I had a bad experience. We wind up considering that if we're inaccurately measuring our performance, a successful first attempt resolution. So we're rewarding a bad level of service. So improve your service desk. Honestly and accurately measure its performance and have your internal professionals benefiting themselves by good performance reviews and benefiting the company by doing what the company actually needs them to do. Number 3, sharpen the tools that you have. So you already have people doing this, probably. Well, we need to figure out a way that they can do it better. They talk about sharpening the saw in Covey's management principles. I think it's number 7. And you're trying to make sure that you are healthy and capable and well-balanced and all that, capable of doing things not as a dull tool. But there are other things that I think about in sharpening the tools. Service desks tend to be a reactive department. When there's a problem, break fix, we need to fix it. How do we possibly know that there is a problem? How can I possibly anticipate that there will be a problem at a particular time of day or what have you? Well, this is what the 911 service does for communities that have 911 coverage. We don't know that somebody is going to have a heart attack at a particular time in a particular address, but we know that something is going to happen based on a pattern of activity, and we are prepared for it. We are proactively saying, what if somebody did have a heart attack? How can I get them to a defibrillator? How can I get a professional out there? We know that people have problems with their communication systems. We have a pattern of when these problems occur. Let's make sure that we are proactively staffing. We have the capacity to address these problems early on a Monday or early on the first day after a company holiday when we've been shut down, had some unusual production activity happening over the long weekend. Whenever we have a pattern of faults and failures, we want to be proactively ready to react, to be accessible, make it easy for the consumer to get help. I have tried to get help from some very professional companies who produce massively impressive technology, and it has taken me more than 15 minutes to find a way to get assistance from them through their websites. If I've gone to their website and I need help, I don't want to spend 15 minutes going through a sales presentation or through some sort of filter or digging and persistently trying to find a way to get the assistance. I should be able to get the assistance I need from that vendor. Your team needs to be able to provide assistance and be visible. Invest in the skills training, in skills of your organization. New Horizons has a vested interest in this point, but up to this point, we haven't been talking about things that we do to help you with improving your service desk, and this is not really a sales type of presentation. But what is it that your service desk personnel are needing to do? Does your service desk need to be able to fix that mop here or that Cisco router or to restore functionality of a SQL or Oracle database? Do they need to be able to restore the virtual server or whatever? Probably not. That may be somebody who has a more technical focus. What do they need to be able to do? They need to be able to provide assistance rapidly to restoring service. So maybe they need some training in the Office suite, if you use the Microsoft Office platform, in the ways that your folks use it. If your salespeople are using a particular set of features inside of Outlook, then let's make sure that your service desk is trained on Outlook. Training them on Cisco is great for career development, and they might be moving in that direction, and that's excellent. But as far as improving your service desk is concerned, make sure they're trained in those areas that they need every day, like customer service, like written communication, those sorts of things as well. Deepen the bench. We don't like single points of failure when it comes to technology, and we shouldn't accept single points of failure when it comes to support. If there is only one person that knows how to restore service to the printer, then that's a problem. We need to make sure there's more than one person and that more than one person is available. So cross-training, you've heard that probably a million times, but make sure that people, we can have a key person, subject matter expert in an area, but make sure that they're not indispensable, that if they can't go on vacation or on a honeymoon. I'm hearing somebody in the background. Is there a question?
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick. This is Kemal. We did have a question. I apologize. It only seemed to just pop up now, but it seemed to was about 5 minutes ago. What kind of metrics do you recommend for measuring success?
It's difficult. It sounds like I'm going to be giving you a political answer where it's an answer that doesn't actually have any value, but we need to know what it is that you're doing. If you are trying to keep a nuclear reactor from overheating, then we have some very obvious things we need to do, the rapid restoration of the water pumps. If you are working in an environment where you're doing online trading and you need to be able to execute trades that your customers do, we need a rapid restoration of services. And even if that's just, you need to click on this menu to be able to place your trade. It doesn't mean that we had a technology failure, but the user's not able to use the tools because they're ignorant of the feature set. We may need to be trained in being able to restore the user's productivity. If you need to be visible, if your telco needs to be functioning, I'm not sure what your individual needs are, but what we want to look at it is from the service delivered perspective and see what impacts the service delivered and identify in that service delivered perspective things that we can reduce. So I worked with a company who found that they were using a huge amount of their organization's time with rework. So we could test how accurate an individual document was each time it went through, but what we wanted to do was test the number of times a document was submitted and resubmitted, and keep track of that, come up with an accurate metric of resubmissions, because each cycle burned up a lot of company resources and therefore associated cost. And you want to then, if you have no way of measuring it, you have no way of knowing that's a problem. Once you have a metric, you've discovered a point at which you can monitor and measure the number of reworks that are being done, then you want to accurately get that data. My first knee-jerk reaction from many of my ITIL clients is that they don't want their IT service environment to look as bad as it really is. And I'm trying to encourage them, make it look horrible, because in 6 months, I want it to show a huge improvement. I don't want you to misrepresent your IT environment as running nearly perfect now, because there would be no room for improvement in 6 months. Let's get honest, accurate information. But finding that measurable attribute is a brilliant question, but it requires some organizational analysis, knowing what the processes are inside your company. Hopefully that wasn't a complete waste of carbon and oxygen. An answer of some kind. So that was my deep in the bench.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Question number 4, or actually not question number 4, way number 4 to improve your service desk is add new tools to the kit. See, a lot of people believe they jump straight to number 1, straight to number 4 as if it's number 1. Oh, our service desk would be so much better if only we had a better ticketing system, if only we had a better remote control or a remote presence tool, if only we had the latest internet connection speeds and the greatest desktop and all that. You know what? Yeah, you might be better, but you don't know how bad you are right now if you haven't measured where you are, and you won't know how you improved if you don't know how to measure improvement, and you might just drop $60,000 in acquiring a brand new ticketing system and not be able to demonstrate a return on your investment because you can't measure the return because you weren't measuring it to begin. But you can measure the expense. You can know how much money you spent on it, and you can have customers, consumers of your service desk, feeling worse during your uptake and learning of the new tool because they were getting bad but better service last month than they are getting now while their service desk personnel are trying to learn the new tools. Let's make sure that we are service desk first. Let's make sure that we understand what success looks like and that we're measuring for success. Let's make sure that where individuals are as good as they can be with the tools they have, and then let's start spending money on tools. So concepts like standardization and automation, right? Standardization helps with automation. I've got some clients who have a 7-minute desktop visit. If they have to send a desktop technician out to service a client, they have, of that 7 minutes, they've got about 3 minutes to resolve the problem through mouse click and drag and try to fix something obvious. If in 3 minutes they don't have the problem resolved, they start a re-imaging process, and they are 4 minutes away from a standard workstation. If they've gone to visit someone in accounting, they re-image the accounting workstation. If they've gone to visit someone in executive management, they re-image the executive management workstation. All of the executive management team's unique data is stored elsewhere, not on the workstation, and the re-imaging process is made rapid through the new tools, new processes, new ways of doing things, and we have restored in less than 10 minutes the tool that was non-functioning, that was keeping the person from being able to do what they needed to do. Again, with a focus on the interruption of service. So virtualization and distributed centralization, how's that for some crazy terminology? The things we can do with virtualization is just mind-numbing. The term the cloud has been overused and oversold, and it now means everything probably is being done in the cloud. You know, genuine rainwater made with cloud technology. It'll sell better if you put the word cloud in the description somewhere. Well, by creating non-physical objects, by creating virtualized objects, I can do things that the physical universe prohibited me from. I can create a new instance of a server, or I can create 6 instances of a server. I can create a new instance of a desktop work environment, or 6 instances of a desktop work environment with just a couple of mouse clicks. This demand provisioning or on-demand deployment of what used to require the acquisition of hardware, the restoration of functionality of that hardware, the loading of the operating system, the restoration of software, and all that other stuff. We can do some amazing things when we're virtualizing our solutions. And one of the challenges with virtualization is we tend to centralize our virtualized solution into a single location, which gives us that feeling of the mainframes of yesteryear, where everything is in one place where the geeks live, but it also introduces a single point of failure. So when you're looking at new ways to do things, you can do distributed centralization, where logically everything is stored in your private cloud, but your private cloud is represented by multiple campuses around the United States or around the world, and you can deal with a single point of failure, a natural event, earthquake, flood, fire, hurricane, tornado, an unnatural act of violence or terror, of warfare coming across a particular border. So, you know, there are things that you can build a virtualized, distributed, centralized model to. This isn't going to be inexpensive. Overall, the final result might be a reduction of total operating expenses. The total cost of ownership may in fact be lower, but your transition from what you currently have to where you're going to be is going to require an investment in capital for both training and hardware and building the infrastructure. So it's not without its cost, but it is a way to improve your service desk. Give your service desk remote presence. I don't want to have somebody leave the desktop, their service desk desktop, and walk out to your workstation if I can avoid it. If I can be at your workstation, if I can see what you're seeing so you don't have to describe to me the error message, if I could remotely control your workstation. Now, this is not always possible. There are situations where the remote presence has to be supported by physical presence, but the newest generation of tools for remote presence are really, really powerful, and they can dramatically improve your service desk. And if you've got an office in New York and an office in Los Angeles, and you've got 3,000 miles between them, you've got also 3 hours of daylight difference between them. You can get a longer functional day if somebody in New York is able to service somebody in Los Angeles, and somebody in Los Angeles is able to serve somebody in New York, or somebody in Kuala Lumpur is able to support somebody in Rome. Your knowledge base, right? We're human beings. We know what we know, and we probably know a little bit more than we think we know, but it's hard to transfer that knowledge from one individual to another individual. That's what training is about. That's what communication is about. And we work hard at doing that, but when there's somebody in the organization that knows everything about this widget, or also if somebody knows, yeah, every Thanksgiving we seem to have a problem with this particular business function, and wouldn't it be great if we could just fix this, or, oh, look, I figured a way that if you do this, the service is restored. We may not have resolved the root cause, but we have restored functionality, and that's really Service Desk's primary job. We have problem management as a separate business unit, hopefully, but Service Desk restoration of service is key here. Well, if one person in your team, let's say that person in New York knows this, but the person in Los Angeles doesn't know it, you're not going to get the same quality of service if you wind up talking to a different individual. And that breaks down the Service Desk. We wind up making direct calls to our subject matter experts, which breaks down a lot of other processes. All right, number 5, way to improve your service desk. Reward success. All right, that's what we're supposed to do, right? I work with salespeople all the time. We talk about rewarding success. I work with engineers all the time. We talk about rewarding success. How do we reward success in the service desk? We forget that the service desk is our single point of contact traditionally, and therefore we forget that our service desk is the face of IT. You may have the most brilliant IT infrastructure in the world. You may have invested in the highest quality IT professionals in the world, and your customer, your internal customer and your external customer, doesn't know that, because the service desk that they speak to is the newest employee who may not even know what product or services the company produces. They don't know where to go next. They're working off of a spreadsheet, which largely, and forgive me for this, I am in contradiction with much of my industry, but I am not the biggest fan of the self-service portal, because I think the self-service portal is a useful tool if I know how to restore service and I'm able to restore service by choosing the tool that did that. But that is more of a help desk function than it is service desk. When I'm in a panic, my heart rate is up and I feel that I'm going to be facing the music for having lost the fourth quarter earnings report, going to the website and saying, well, if you think it's something we can recover to the image from 15 minutes ago, click here and go through it. That's not what I want. I need to talk to somebody who's going to bring my heart rate down and say, no, we've got you covered. Okay, tell me what it is that you're doing. How do I get you functional before that big meeting? So if the face of IT, the facade, is poor, rusty, then the interior looks like it's poor and rusty, because that's all anybody ever sees. Big point of contention for me. Service desk should not be a stepping stone to a real job. All right? If you feel that way about your help desk, so be it. I want somebody promoted into service desk. Why? Because they can communicate, because they can empathize, because they've been with the company long enough to know that if Bob is complaining about a problem with this high-speed printer device, that in 15 minutes this is going to become a critical issue, because Mary runs a check print every day at 3 o'clock, and we're about to run into that 3 o'clock window. New employee doesn't know that, doesn't have the institutional knowledge, but an employee who knows the processes and the way things work is able to anticipate future failure and raise the priority of this interruption to an appropriate level. I'd like people to get rewarded for succeeding in service desk, because there's plenty of experiences, and I see this in engineering as well. You take that absolutely brilliant engineer, and once they have reached a certain level of success, you're going to make them a manager. You're going to take them away from the lab, which they have demonstrated skills at, and you're going to make them in charge of people, hiring and firing decisions, motivation, budgetary issues. You're going to take a person who is excellent at their job, and you're going to take them away from that which they succeeded at and give them an opportunity to fail in a more visible way. That's part of the Peter principle, right? We promote until we reach a level of incompetence. Well, I don't want to lose service desk people, and I don't think you should either. I think you should promote folks into the service desk and make it a real job. Make it professional. So, some next steps. Let's restating those 5 ways to improve your service desk. 1, evaluate and implement a real service desk. Take an honest look at what you've done. If you've got a service desk that is a help desk with a different name, you've kind of missed an opportunity. If you still have a help desk and you haven't called it a service desk, find those help desk personnel that everybody is currently going around your call management system. I'm going to use the name Patrick here. We've got a gentleman in my organization named Patrick that everybody wants to talk to. They love Patrick. Patrick almost never says no. And by the old metrics, Patrick was constantly in trouble because the assigned workload was not being completed on time, because anywhere Patrick walked in the organization, somebody was going to tag Patrick and say, oh, just real quick, I'm glad to see you. I've been holding on to this problem for the last 3 days, but now that you're on the floor, we can, help me with this. They fly by ticketing. And we were punishing Patrick. Well, we weren't, but companies were punishing Patrick by saying, no, you can't do that. You have a task that you need to do. Well, if Patrick is the person everybody wants to talk to, let's make Patrick the face of IT. Let's take that person out of a help desk role and promote them to a service desk role. If you are putting people that people want to talk to in a position where people are supposed to talk to them, you have not only improved their success chance, but you've also improved the quality of the service you deliver to your customer. They're talking to people who they want to talk to. Evaluate and implement aligned performance metrics. Ooh, those are a bunch of $10 words there. I don't want you to fall into the trap that the early French economists were talking about, and they were proposing having government-funded teams walking around the city breaking windows. If you break the windows of Paris, then there would be more work for the glass manufacturers of Paris. We were running out of work to keep these people busy, so let's keep the windows broken so that the consumer is forced to go out and buy more glass, and the glaziers stay in business. This seems, when looked at in the light of reason, a ridiculous idea because people are being paid to cause the customer to have a bad experience so that the customer has to pay for restoration of service. Well, we often have misaligned performance metrics in our IT service desk that create some degree of that. There's an us and them. We're doing what's perfect for our service desk, and we don't realize or are not really that interested in what is necessary for keeping the customer happy. We're going to do what keeps our ticket count or the resolution or whatever it is so that I get my performance metrics where they need to be. Number 3, invest in training your service desk team, and not just in the deep geek technology stuff. Invest in those areas which will make them better as a service desk, not necessarily as a technologist or a help desk. Invest in new technologies and methodologies to improve your service outcomes. So once we know that the tools we have are sharp and shiny and they're ready to do work, we can make them even more effective by giving them better tools to work with. And professionalize the service desk, right? I have walked into organizations where the service desk, help desk, tech support, whatever you want to call it, was hated by the customer. They were not calling the service desk, but waiting for their 16-year-old nephew to get out of high school to show up to service the rogue Linux box that was installed because nobody would wait for the IT department to update the Windows Server box that nobody knew how to work with. This is a sign of a sick institution. There's a sickness that needs to be fixed. You want the service desk, if the service desk has that bad reputation in the organization, then starting out by professionalizing the service desk isn't necessarily your best first step. Creating a service desk that is working on service is the first step. Once you recognize that they are doing a good job, don't force them to leave the service desk to become the person climbing through the plenum space, pulling cable, and never talking to a customer again. I want them in front of the customer. I think you should too. So that's the end of my diatribe. I've got a couple of resource slides here just to let you know. There are classes offered by us and our worthy competitors, things that you might want to invest in, part of sharpening that saw or sharpening the tools, all levels of Microsoft Office, fundamentals of customer service. I truly believe in the ITIL environment, and I think that every IT organization could benefit from an ITIL Foundation's awareness at least, and then implement the intermediate and advanced at different levels within the organization. Courses in managerial leadership and motivating your employees. Training resources, let's improve our technical competencies, our basic electronics and computer capabilities with A+, and Network Plus, and Security Plus. These are great because they're generalists. This is not teaching you how to work on one person's product. It's teaching you how to work in the industry across a breadth of products. Then there are ways to focus on individual products. I'm just looking at Microsoft here, but you could be doing this with Cisco, you could be doing this with Linux, you could be doing this with any number of technologies. But this is a list of some of the classes that are Microsoft official curriculum to give you increased technical competencies. And then take a look at the technology and methodology resources. Those things that could change the way you do things. Investing in VMware, in Citrix, in Red Hat, looking at things that Microsoft can do with Hyper-V, looking at your security model. If the good source of your failures is malicious mischief or you've been breached, like so many of these major companies have been in the recent history, you may need to do an investment in security training. Look at processes, Six Sigma stuff. Repeatable processes. That leads a lot towards automation and rapid restoration of services. That's about it for my sales pitch. Any questions at this point before I let you go and visit the big wide world of the Internet?
Please drop your questions in the question box below, and I will read them aloud. Well, Burgerman, thank you very much, and thank you to all the attendees. It looks like you had a stunning job, and you did a stunning job, so there aren't a lot of questions other than one which I would be happy to answer, which was, will the presentation be made available after this session? Yes, to the person who asked that, and to everyone who is still here, the presentations always go on up to YouTube, and they will be available there. You can search under NH Learning Solutions or under the topic, and you'll be able to find it there. If you have any questions, certainly reach out to us. We'll be happy to get you a direct link there. And we are well under our time, so that's fantastic. Again, thanks to everybody who attended. We look forward to having you in 2 weeks' time. There will be another event coming on, which will, I forget the title exactly right now, but I think it was Tips and Tricks of Help Desk. And we look forward to having you on the next go-round. Everyone have a wonderful day.